Great. So we will begin the session. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us for this open event. We're here to talk about the Master's Programme in Science, Technology, Engineering and Public Policy offered by the UCL Department of STEEP. We have a few members of staff from UCL STEEP on the call with us who will be talking to you about some of the key information. We have Professor Arthur Peterson. Thank you very much for joining us. Arthur is a professor in Science, Technology and Public Policy at the department. I am Dr. Maria Cross. I also work in STEEP and I will be the co-lead for this master's programme. We kindly have Jo Heibel joining us from the professional services team, and she's going to be speaking to you about the admissions processes. And then lastly, we have Kiki joining us, who is an alumni from the department. So when we get into the questions, please do feel free to ask any questions about what it means to be a STEEP student and sort of why you might want to study with us at STEEP. And Kiki has very kindly agreed to help us out there. As I said, for the session today, we'll be starting with a presentation. Arthur will be beginning by talking us through why you will want to study with us at UCL. He'll introduce the Faculty of Engineering that this programme belongs to, talk a little bit to you about the research that we do at STEEP and the sort of themes that we explore and focus on, and career opportunities for you after you graduate. And then I'll talk you through the programme itself, so looking at the course content and structure, what it means to be a distance learning student and to touch on that learning experience. And then we'll look at the modes of study possible. Lastly, Jo will present quite briefly just on the processes of admissions and any frequently asked questions that come up there. And we'll hand over to Kiki to share a little bit on her experience. And then really, and I hope the main aim of this session is to open up to you and your questions. So please do feel free to ask us anything you want. You can use the meeting chat as we go along, but hopefully at the end we'll have a really nice discussion and be able to help you out and help you make your decision about why you will want to study with us. So I'll hand over to Arthur.
Thank you, Maria. So welcome all. Welcome to UCL. I'm Arthur Peterson, a professor in STEEP, which sits in the Faculty of Engineering Sciences. And I will tell you a little bit more about both UCL and the faculty. I joined UCL over a decade ago after a career as a science advisor, which this online MSc can well train you to become in. And I was that in the Dutch government. And I'm still happily a science advisor in the Dutch government while working now at UCL. UCL is really a special place. It's a long history of the institution, nearly 200 years, and we have had an ethos of really challenging conventions since the start in the early 19th century. And still today, our main goal is to really impact, inspire, and move the world forward. As you can see the list of different faculties here, we are a very broad university and they are all contributing to the university's successes, which are huge in the sense that we have been chosen in the Good University Guide by the Times and Sunday Times as the University of the Year in 2024. We are in the top 10 of universities globally in the QS World University Rankings. And in terms of research power, we are, I would say, close to overtaking Oxford as well, but we are second in the UK for research power. The next slide, Maria, please. So this Faculty of Engineering Sciences, where this MSc program is a part of, has 10 different departments, and all our staff are working across the faculty as well as other faculties in the school that includes engineering, but also mathematical and physical sciences and the Bartlett. This Faculty of Engineering Sciences, we are, together with Security and Crime Science, a social science-oriented department that connects the technical stuff to the policy and real world outside. The next slide, please. So about the faculty, use the QR code to get some idea of what we are doing in the faculty, we have really nice videos, the Disruptive Thinkers video series, where each department has delivered a contribution to, for instance, how waste can help us get to net zero, how we make big changes happen, how engineering connects our genes to our body, and much, much more. So I really can recommend you to take a look. Let me say a little bit more about STEEP. Next slide, please. So our department, in terms of topics, is organized in 6 different clusters of research. So we focus on the digital technologies in the world and how policy and regulation is affecting both the innovations on the digital technology side and how that affects companies and people. We have a research cluster on engineering policy, where we really focus on what's the role of engineers in the economy, in policy, in decision-making. We have a research cluster, which I also belong to, on energy, environment, and sustainable development. Questions like climate change are tackled in that research cluster. We have a cluster on health innovation and policy, on urban innovation and infrastructure. And last but not least, which I'm also part of, the 21st century decision-making cluster, which is where we think about futures, science advice, science diplomacy. This is really, in a sense, a main home for the online MSc. Then to careers. A really important feature at UCL is that we do have a team that helps you throughout your studies and also after your studies in thinking through and helping you with your career. How do you land a job? How do you get placements, internships, or if you want to go into academia, how do you do that? Again, we have a QR code there, which gives you more information to visit. And with that, I think that should suffice as a brief intro. I will be here for the Q&A, and I'm handing it back to Maria to talk about the program itself.
Apologies for not unmuting. I was just saying thank you so much, Arthur, for that introduction. And on this program itself, it really is grounded in the ideas and the research expertise of STEEP that Arthur has described. So you will be exposed to a breadth of real-world emerging issues and cases from across science, technology, and engineering, and its interface with public policy. So themes of unprecedented environmental change, global urbanism, and emerging technological revolutions. These are all examples of contexts that we will explore in this master's. And these issues really can't be tackled in silos. So this program will help you develop the skills and knowledge needed to operate across and transcend traditional disciplines and empower you to take a holistic approach to problem solving. Our program graduates will benefit from UCL's focus on disruptive thinking that we've already heard about. We hope that you will go on to be the future decision makers and leaders and really contribute to tackling societal problems and help change the world for better. So for the program content and structure, there are sort of 4 core modules across the program that really deliver that learning that you need to operate at the STEEP interface. Through policy making, you'll be equipped with the theoretical knowledge and practical skills needed to effectively engage in policy making processes. In science and engineering advice, you will explore the role of academic evidence in addressing the diverse challenges faced by policy decision makers at various levels, so from local to global. In science funding and governance, you will examine how governments support and govern research and innovation to address these dynamic global challenges. So this brings in policy, but also strategic thinking. And in science diplomacy, you will take an international lens and explore the interaction between science and diplomacy and the role of science advice in foreign affairs. Alongside these core modules, you will complete 4 optional modules, which you get to choose across the breadth of science, technology, engineering, and public policy. And you will study research methods alongside a dissertation project to conclude the degree. In all programme components, you will study cases from across the globe to provide comparisons of different perspectives and approaches and enable you as learners and students in the cohort to contribute your own experiences and context to the programme and the learning of your peers. And as for how you will study with us, as a distance learning student, you will undertake all learning and assessment remotely. This means that you will not need to come to our university campus in London. You will have the flexibility to access study materials from wherever you are in the world at any time that is convenient for you. There will be, to help you structure your learning, set timings for the coursework and presentation assessments, and suggested learning activities that you should complete each week during term time. These weekly activities will be bite-sized tasks that guide you through the course content and help you practice and test your learning. So to give some examples, you might work through an interactive scenario with multiple choice questions. You might watch a video where an expert from the STEEP community explains concepts to you, or you might respond to questions and reflective prompts in a discussion forum, work through tutorials, and there will be practical tasks as well. This programme provides a wide range of study activities to give you a really unique learning opportunity to help you build your knowledge and skills. As part of this, a really important component is getting to connect and collaborate with an international cohort of learners. I already mentioned the use of discussion forums. There will also be opportunities to connect through live or synchronous online sessions, just like this one, so maybe on Zoom. These will, on the most part, be optional and ways of engaging asynchronously, so maybe recorded, or you can submit questions in advance. But they are a great opportunity for the cohort to come together, for you to discuss with peers and have the opportunity to connect with wider members of the community, so including STEEP staff and faculty. This contact with faculty is a really important part of the programme. You'll be designated a personal tutor who can provide regular support and guidance to help you work through the programme and achieve and understand your own personal learning goals and why you are studying with us. Just to note that there are different options for how you can complete the programme that bring in more flexibility to how you can study. So you may complete the programme full-time, which means it's within 1 year, or there is part-time study, which will take and spread your learning across 2 years. We also offer a flexible study mode where you have the flexibility to choose how many and which modules you will take each year. And here you can take up to 5 years to complete the master's programme. So that, I hope, was a helpful introduction to the programme itself. I will now hand over to Jo to speak about the application process.
Hi there. You've probably read about it. It's all set out on our website. But the basics are, we're looking for students with either a 2-1 from an English university or the equivalent in their first degree from any other country. We occasionally do waivers on this if you've got substantial relevant work experience, because we do recognise that a degree perhaps you got 15 years ago doesn't reflect what you've achieved in the last 15 years since you graduated. We also ask for level 3 English. I think we've got the links there to our English language requirements. Again, every now and then we do a waiver, but that would be dependent on an interview. You really do need to speak fairly fluent English to thoroughly enjoy the programme and take advantage of presentations and group activities. Despite what it might say, perhaps on our website, we only need 1 reference. Ideally, it would be an academic reference, but obviously if you've been working for a few years, you might want to use a professional reference. And the only thing we ask is that it comes from a professional or academic email address. The process, it's very quick. If you supply all the correct documents and you meet all the criteria, then our graduate admissions office usually process them in a couple of weeks, depending on the time of year. quite busy in August. So I'd recommend applying earlier than that. And then once they've processed it, they send it to us, and our admissions tutor usually makes a decision within about 2 days. And then the offer gets sent out by our graduate admissions office. I don't think, unfortunately, there are any scholarships available, at least within UCL, for online MSc courses, but there may be scholarships available either in your own country or through other bodies. And that is it in a nutshell, really, but obviously I'm open to any particular questions that you might have.
Great, thank you so much, Jo. It is almost time for your questions for those joining us in the session today. Please do start entering them into the chat or raising your hands if you do have anything that you'd like to share with us or ask us about directly, please do. While you're thinking of your questions and maybe to help you come up with some ideas or directions to go down, Kiki, would you like to come in and maybe share some of your experiences?
Hi, yeah, sure. Hello everyone. Just thought I'll share my experiences doing the MPA, the Masters of Public Administration at STEEP in between 2021 and 22. So I think I'll start with why I chose STEEP to begin with. STEEP is a very unique department with interdisciplinary research topics, and you can also choose different routes, which was also the reason why I chose the MPA. So you have like a very tailored program, but also there are a lot of academics in the department that you can reach out to with your interests. So for example, if you're interested in climate change and sustainability, there are lots of academics who can help you with that. If you're interested in digital tech, loads. So I think the important thing is to reach out, which leads to my second point, which is that everybody is quite eager to help, very interested to involve you in their research. So definitely reach out for help. Also reach out to your TAs, not only your module conveners, because they tend to be very helpful, very friendly, and can give you a lot of tips and tricks because they also are PhD students within the department and can give you tips on assessments and things like that. Office hours are very important. You can choose them with either your tutor of your tutorials, which can be a TA or your module convener, but you can also do it with different people. So you can just pick and choose which academic you want to talk to or the educator you want to talk to. And then, yeah, so there's a lot of options to ask for help if you need to, or just to discuss future career plans and stuff like that too. For new students, I think be open about it. You'll have a very friendly cohort. Reach out to your cohort. I think the department will also set up group chats on LinkedIn or WhatsApp, so you can you wouldn't be so out of touch with everyone, especially because you'll be online. Use the Moodle forums, all of that, and also, of course, reach out to us professional services and also the admin team as well if you need any help at all. And we tend to be very helpful. I can also take some of the questions in the chat, like how does assessment work as far as these modules are concerned. I'm not sure how you will get your assessment, the topics and the question way in advance, so you can plan it, especially if you have conflicting deadlines. You will have a lot of time to plan and think through, and also have your teachers check through your work, whether you're before your final submission. Correct me if I'm wrong as well. I think the Moodle allows for 3 submissions until the deadline period, which helps with you making minor changes if you have like time anxiety like I do. I want to have it submitted, but also want to keep making changes. So that's also a great option. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Kiki. And I think some really great tips there for sort of how to handle the program, and just to sort of really echo a few of the key points, like about asking questions and being inquisitive. Don't be afraid to approach staff or your peers. That's something that we really encourage and welcome at STEEP. So thank you so much. And yes, we will continue going through the sort of questions in the chat. Thank you so much for posting those. We will pick them up. I will just stop sharing my screen in case anyone wants to come in live and ask a question. Please do raise your hand or turn your video on, and you're very welcome. So for the question on assessment, thank you so much for asking that. As Kiki said, you will be told at the start of each module, so the start of each term, the assessments that you will be taking. Across the programme, we do use a wide variety of assessment methods. But it is all coursework based, so there aren't any exams in this programme. It will be written courseworks or giving presentations, maybe having a sort of Viva style live discussion of a topic there. So quite the range. Our assessments tend to be focused on quite real world scenarios and sort of the kind of tasks that you might go into in your future careers. So maybe writing a policy briefing or something like that. But they will all be completed within the sort of teaching term that you'll be doing them. So there's no exam period at the end of the programme. I hope that answered your question. Is there anything else on assessment? Great, thank you. We will move on to Vanessa's question that I can also see in the chat. So this question is in terms of course content, with the course covering such broad topics, how technological does the course look, and will it be accessible to those who may not have a background in certain aspects of the course? Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I will start with a sort of broad answer, and then maybe Arthur, I will bring you in to add some detail. But generally, as sort of Arthur introduced with the Department of STEEP, we are actually a social science department. So all the methods, sort of theories, approaches that we teach and will invite you to explore with us are more social science. So it certainly doesn't require any technological knowledge or sort of coding knowledge or anything like that. We really welcome applicants from a wide range of backgrounds, and this programme comes with the assumption that we will have learners from different backgrounds. Some may have that technology background, knowledge and experience and skills. Others may be from social sciences or humanities, maybe policy, politics. Some may come from a business background. Like, we really expect and are excited to have a broad and diverse group learning with us. So with this programme, we really support everyone to develop those skills where needed, but there won't be too many coding tasks or technology sort of related knowledge required. Arthur, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think it's good to highlight that most of the faculty members have a dual background, with themselves having trained first as a scientist or engineer and then pivoted to reflecting on how the connection between science, technology, engineering on the one hand and public policy on the other hand is being made. So many of the examples in many of the courses, I teach an elective, for instance, on risk assessments and governance. It means that we have to explain the specific cases that we talk about, and we make sure that we actually really do know it in depth. But we will present it in a way that's accessible, even if you don't have the original technical background. It's kind of also learning you not to be afraid of science, technology, engineering, and how you can act as a conduit and advisor to even less kind of technologically oriented colleagues in how to deal with the societal problems that do involve and require knowledge of science, technology, engineering. So that's the kind of generic answer I could give. Thanks, Maria.
Great, thank you. Sort of moving on to the next question in the chat. Again, if anyone does want to put their hand up, please do and sort of ask live, but we will now look at Alex's questions. There are a few questions here, some about assessment and sort of the length of modules in the dissertation that I would take. And then, Joe, if I could ask you to come in on the question on sort of finance, if okay, afterwards. So Alex asks, could I ask about the length of time of each module? And sort of a little bit more on the assessments and generally the length of time expected to do independent study versus learning online there. So I'm very happy to sort of tackle that. The modules are constrained within the UCL teaching terms. So one module is about 11 weeks in duration. So we have term 1, which starts in September and runs until December. Term 2 is after the sort of festive break, so January through to March, and term 3 begins late April. That one's a shorter term, but we then have the summer period, which is when you will complete the dissertation project. So the first 2 terms, so terms 1 and 2, are where you'll do most of the taught modules. And as I said, they are 11 weeks. In terms of what that looks like week to week, it does vary a little bit between modules. Some modules will have more reading and independent studies. Some will be a bit more practical to help you develop those skills. But we generally expect per module learners to be spending about sort of 4 to 6 hours a week on active sort of online learning. So watching videos, doing practical tasks, maybe completing quizzes in the virtual learning environment. And then on top of that, there is sort of reading and working on the assessment. If you are studying the program full time, this sort of works out that you would be doing a full-time week of study. Obviously, part-time is half of that. So I hope that helps and gives some indication on timings there. And on the dissertation itself, so for us, the dissertation project is completed sort of really over term 3 in the summer. So you'll start working on your dissertation in April. We are going quite flexible in terms of the topic. So we really encourage students to pick their own topic or question for their dissertation. You will be matched with a member of staff who will sort of provide academic support and guidance to help you plan and sort of, collect data or evidence and do the analysis. So it is an independent research process, and we really hope through these dissertations you will gain those skills in independently planning and delivering a project. It runs right up until the end of the programme, so you will submit your dissertation likely early September. So I think a really important note here is if you are doing the full-time option, it is a 12-month programme and you are expected to work over the summer on your dissertation project. I hope that was helpful and answered those questions, Alex. Joe, I think you've put something in the chat, but if you could just speak to the question on finance, and I think specifically whether there's any hardship funding tuition available for UK students.
Okay, yes, I have put a link in the chat. I'm not the expert on this, so I'm just putting stuff from the web. There are a few scholarships. There's lots of independent scholarships from charities, certain businesses, so it's worth looking into those. Again, some of our students do work whilst they're studying. Obviously, we don't advise you to work too hard if you're working full-time, if you're studying full-time. And occasionally there are small opportunities within the department to do a little bit of paid TAing or research work. But again, that's not guaranteed. So there's not a very satisfactory answer. I can't give you a concrete name of a body that would help with hardship funding. Though I have to say that if you get really desperate, UCL does actually have a hardship fund if you can't actually feed yourself or are really struggling, which you can apply to. But I really hope you don't get to that point.
Thank you very much. So I think we've got one more question in the chat from Olga to cover. And it's really about being a distance learning student at UCL, but whether there are any opportunities to come to campus, but also engage in other programs. So on the ID card, you are welcome to come to UCL and collect a ID card. So you can get a student ID and use that for all the benefits. In the UK, you can get discounts and things like that. So if you are able to come to campus, yes, you absolutely can get your student ID. In terms of sort of then accessing things on site, you will never need to. We hope with this program it's set up so that you don't need to come to campus, but there are opportunities perhaps to come to events, and then you are welcome to do that. In terms of joining classes from other programs, within the design of this program itself, all of the modules that you will need to complete the program, so both the core and optional modules, are housed within STEEP itself. But at UCL, students can audit modules from other programs, and this sort of just requires the permission of the department that runs the module itself. And if they have space on the module and are happy to accept other students, then you are very welcome to do that. and about sort of, what modules might be of interest to them, how it sort of fits in with their learning, but also a little bit around time management if you are attending additional classes, really making sure that that works for you and is helpful and not too stressful, but definitely possible. And there are quite a few programs that are running online at UCL. So if you sort of look at those and they are of interest, then I hope that's a good opportunity for you. I can see still more questions coming in. Thank you so much. On the flexible study mode, can we dedicate terms 3 to work on your dissertation? Yes, thank you. That's a good question. So if you are studying with flexible study, we still do have to follow the UCL terms. So while you can pick which of the academic years you will take modules in, some modules are only available in certain terms. And for the dissertation itself, that will always be something that you complete over the summer. So starting in late April and ending till September. There is flexibility over which year you do it in, but we would recommend, of course, that the dissertation is done at the end of the programme, so in your last year of study, whether you're taking 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. We would, hope and support you to make that the last thing that you do on the programme. About access to the slides and the recording, we are hoping to make the recording available and can share that with everyone on the call. So I hope that's helpful for you. A question from Jessica: on completion of the programme, will all distance learning students have the opportunity to attend a graduation ceremony at UCL? Thank you. Yes, yes is the short answer to that. You are very welcome to come to UCL graduation, just like all UCL master's students. You will graduate alongside your class, and we would really encourage and welcome that of our distance learning students, and would certainly put on an event around it to get to meet you in person if you did want to come to graduation. We would really support that. I haven't seen any other questions in the chat. If anyone has anything else they'd like to raise at this stage. No? Just maybe wait 1 minute. Well, if not, I think just one last note from us to share is please do stay in touch. So if any more questions do come up to you later on, then please do reach out. There is an email address on the slide. The team would be really happy to respond to additional questions. It is also worth following us on social media. So we often share examples of research or sort of snippets from students and their experiences studying with us. So it really is a good way to build your understanding of what it means to be a STEEP student and join the STEEP community, but also wider UCL and the Faculty of Engineering. So I hope that provides a really useful resource for you. But mostly we just, would love to stay in touch with you and hear your views on the programme and any additional questions you have. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Great. Oh, I see one extra question in the chat. Please do feel free to keep adding. The question from Leonie is, will it say on the degree certificate that I completed the programme online? Quite simple answer to that is no, it won't. The certificate itself is for a Master's in Science, Technology, Engineering and Public Policy, and that's the degree that you're completing. So it won't include on the certificate the study mode. That will, however, be mentioned on the transcript. So it will mention there that you completed the programme via distance learning. Great. Please do feel free to stay online and pop questions in the chat or speak to us. I'll stay on this session for 5 minutes longer if anyone does want to talk. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining. We will follow up with you and sharing the information that was presented today. But thank you so much for your questions, and we hope to hear from you in the future. Thanks all. One additional question from Alex. So yes, this is a master's degree. We do have an in-person master's in public administration, so an MPA. This is a completely different and new program. So this is a Master's of Science. It sort of really represents the different learning outcomes of the two programs, and why one is a Master's of Science versus one is a Master's of Public Administration. Arthur, if you don't mind sort of speaking to the differences that might be there.
Yes, of course. So the MPA is really focused on the networking, being in London, and the experiential learning component that we also do include in the online MSc, but it's more practitioner oriented in a sense, and that makes it a Master of Public Administration. And here the MSc, and it's also capped off with a group project. I think that's one of the most distinguishing features of that MPA, with a real world client. And in the MSc, it's an MSc dissertation, which is an academically kind of oriented, but also practice oriented, but not in the same way as in the MPA. So that makes it's a gradual degree difference, because it's very much the same people teaching modules, or even the same modules, both in the MSc and the MPA. And there's, in many respects, not much difference in terms of the contents. Yeah, it's just a different different audience in a sense, as well as I would say the online MSc is across all the different technical topics in a sense. So it's not a flavor like we have in the MPA. You focus on digital technologies, or you focus on climate and technology, and that's not a necessary thing in this online MSc. So it's in a sense more wide, and addresses the whole kind of set of issues under science, technology, engineering, and public policy. I don't know if I forgot something, Maria, but it's a very good question. But it's this is a complementary program, and we the idea is that yeah, people can make a choice whether the MPA is best suited for them or the MSc is best suited for them.
Great, thank you very much. If there are no more questions, I will end the session now. But as I said, if anything does come up later, please do email us, and we'll be happy to help you. It was really great to meet everyone.